Welcome into Lion Pride Sports. I'm Andrew Rogers. Here joining me today once again is the coach of the Lindenwood Field Hockey team, Coach Sarah Baumann. Coach, thanks again for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
And you know, we haven't gotten to speak in, I think it's been about 2 weeks now.
Yep.
But in those 2 weeks, the team's gone 4-1. What can you tell me what can you tell me so far that has happened in those 5 games?
Yeah, so we had some really good wins. Our loss came to Limestone, which is one of our biggest rivals as well, a big competitor that's always kind of on that cusp of in that top 10 range. So that was, we played really well in that game, just couldn't get the win. But the other wins for us, playing Newberry twice, playing Mercy at home, and then playing Converse down in South Carolina as well. Those are good wins for us where we were able to kind of come away with the wins and get a lot of girls in the game that were able to contribute, get some playing time, and see get some points on the board for us.
Yeah, and you definitely said a little bit off air, you know, the weather in South Carolina was a little warmer than expected going over to the East Coast, and with you guys playing 2 games over there, what can you say that did the weather have any type of impact in that game or take a toll on the players at all?
You know, I don't think the weather did so much. I think we're kind of used to that hot humidity here as well. I think we're all ready for fall to kind of hit us, which it seems like it may have today a little bit, but I think the girls are kind of used to it. I think 3 games is hard after a long road trip. It's a 12-hour road trip down there, so obviously that kind of takes a toll on their body, but we try to keep them focused, and you know, they're young and able, and that it is what it is. We're used to it being on the road.
Right, and you know, you talked about Limestone a little bit, one of your biggest rivals last year, 2-1 against them. And it's hard to beat a team 3 times in any season, but the biggest one came in the conference championship, of course, which is hopefully what we see at the end result here for this season as well. But talk about how tough of an opponent that game was.
Yeah, I mean, they never cease to amaze us with their kind of speed, their ability for scoring. They're one of those teams that you give them 3 opportunities in the circle to score, and they're going to capitalize on at least 1 or 2 of them. So I think that we knew that going into it, and they definitely took advantage of those situations, those breakaway opportunities. They're definitely, I would consider them the best team that we've seen in terms of their past seasons and their past history. So they're growing a lot, which is awesome to see Division II growing with their abilities. But I think that we were definitely a better skilled technical team. They just kind of outran us a little bit in terms of the ability to push that tempo on us.
And then Bridget Hugendijk is the one that scored the lone goal in the Limestone game. And just talk about her performance in the last 3 games. She's put together 5 goals in her last 3 games. On the roster, you know, she's listed as a midfielder forward, but when you see midfielder, you don't normally think of a scorer coming from the midfield.
Right.
So with her being a junior, what can you talk about her play this season?
Yeah, we're always thrilled with Bridget. I think from her freshman year until now, she's grown so much as a player in terms of her ability to really work with our style of hockey here. It's a little bit different than back home in the Netherlands for them. So I think she's really adapted to that well for us. She's just got a knack for putting the ball in the back of the net, and they're just those players that have the ability to see passes, but when they get the ball in the circle, you know they're dangerous. And she's willing to kind of shoot with pressure on her, take shots that are a little bit off balance, and she's definitely someone who wants to put the ball in the back of the net for us.
And then you talk about her being from the Netherlands and, you know, the style of play over there, trying to correspond that back here. You also have Norfans that is also another student that comes from overseas. How do you go about recruiting somebody like that?
Yeah, so we work with they usually have some sort of recruiting company that they work with back home, and they kind of reach out to us first. We have a freshman this year, Pauline, as well as another freshman, Anique, who are both from the Netherlands as well, and we got those through the same company and also references. So Nor played with Pauline back home. So it's kind of word of mouth. Once you get someone here, we kind of now have six girls from the Netherlands on our team. But once you get them here, it's kind of easy to keep that kind of relationship with those companies overseas. And
then you talked about style of play as well. What is your coaching style of play?
I think it's just one of our biggest things is that work ethic. So we talk a lot about on the field of we are going to be super fit. That's one thing that we stress a lot. And the other thing is that we're going to do the right thing. We're going to really focus on owning our play. We're going to give work ethic on and off the ball. We're really going to focus on having the proper form when it comes to hitting and receiving and that kind of stuff. And we focus a lot on those fundamentals throughout season and throughout each week and pre-games. And I think that's something that we stress a lot. When girls come over here from overseas, the style is just a little bit different. They're used to a different turf, just a little bit different style of hockey against opponents. It's a much kind of more spread out game. And here it's a little bit more hectic with the pressure on ball. So I think that we kind of have to teach to adapt to that and make those passes and plays earlier.
And how do you do that with players like that? How do you go about, like, whether it's practicing or whether it's just in the training facilities? How do you help them adjust to that faster style of play?
You know, I think that it just comes down to repetition. It's kind of like with any skill, whether you're shooting a free throw or trying to focus on field hockey skills. It's just a matter of repetition and really letting them watch game film, see the plays. The good thing is that we recruit athletes that are kind of very smart game conceptually. So a lot of our Dutch players that come over here are very hockey smart. They have that high hockey IQ, and so that they're able to really, after a few weeks with us, kind of adapt to our turf that we have here, as well as the players around them and their teammates, and work off of them.
And the last time we talked, the team was going into Mercy College and then a match against Newberry College. Yep. And again, we picked up 2 wins there, then the loss to Limestone, and then you play Newberry College again, which is interesting because you don't really see back-to-back games against the same team. And of course, when I say back-to-back, there was a game in between, but on any type of schedule, collegiate, high school, professional, you never see the same team on alternate weeks.
Right.
So when you do see a team like that, how do you prepare for that in a short amount of time and go into a match like that and say, well, they saw what we did here. How do we change it up differently to show them something different here?
Right. I think for us it goes just with watching game film. We watch game film with the girls. We let them kind of break down as a team as well as their individual situations where they're in the play. And I think for us in that game it was a lot of going to 50-50 balls and capitalizing, and that's something we focused on in the game versus Newberry at Newberry this time. Was let's make sure that we're kind of trying to set that tone, that we're coming out strong with that, owning our positions on the field and those 50-50 balls. And we don't change too much. I don't think we like to play to a team too much, other than, we talk about if they're going to do the big ball, we might stretch our press back or things like that. But it's a lot about focusing on our style of hockey and really just doing the things that we've been taught in practices time and time again.
Yeah, absolutely. And then going into the next 2 games following Limestone, again talking about Newberry and then Converse. But I want to get more toward like a bounce back here. How do you get your team to bounce back after a loss against a strong opponent like Limestone and then go into Newberry and get another win?
Right. I think for them, it's one of those things where we talk a lot about how we're never going to be happy with a loss. And in that game, we're definitely not happy because we're all true competitors and, we want the win. But I think that we're happy with our performance. I think that we played exceptionally well. We rose to the occasion in terms of the high tempo type game that they like to play. And unfortunately, the ball just didn't fall into fall in our direction in terms of going in the goal as many times as it did for them. So they're able to capitalize a little bit more than we were, but we were happy with our performance, happy with how well the girls pushed through and played to their style. So I think that we kind of kept it super positive, kept them pumped up, kept them focused on game to game. We did have a day in between there, Saturday, a day of rest, which helps as well to let them kind of get a nice little slow practice in and get some more touches on the ball to refocus for the next opponent.
And for those that don't know, to get a little more understanding about you, you came here back in the, 7 years ago?
This is my 8th season.
Eight years ago, and it was a 2-13 season for you that you started with, and now you've led the field hockey team all the way to first in the ECAC. So just a tremendous achievement for you. Tell us a little bit about your story, your coaching career, your playing career, and how you ended up here today.
Yeah, so when I started playing actually field hockey in high school, which is pretty late in the game for most people that are born and raised in other countries or kind of on the East Coast here in America. So I started playing a little bit late. I got recruited to play at Missouri State, which was a Division I university program. So I was super excited about that. And I grew so much there as a player, really falling in love with the game, but as well as falling in love with learning concepts and learning how to really adapt to other teams, learning just different styles of hockey that maybe I didn't learn so much in high school with my high school team. So I kind of started to fall in love with seeing players develop, especially as I was an upperclassman, and you kind of take those younger players under your wing. So when I graduated, I got my master's, and I just kind of knew, yes, I have this degree, but I want to stay around hockey for a little bit longer. So I moved to Ohio, and I coached with a Division III school there, Denison, and then this job opened up in town. I'm from St. Louis, and I thought, the stars are kind of aligning. I'm going to apply, and the rest is history.
And then when you talk about your playing career a little bit, how are you able to take the stuff that you learned as a player and carry that over to now being a coach?
Yeah, so I think it's so important to really understand kind of what the players are going through. So when we have those high tempo days, when we're really pushing them with fitness or with the skills that we're asking them to do, it's kind of being able to relate to them and say, I've been there, done that. This is how I approached it as a player. This is how I saw my teammates approach it. And I think one of the biggest things is from being a college athlete, you see that your different teammates learn in different ways, and that some people need things explained differently. And as a coach, you kind of have to relate that as well. Not everyone learns the same. Some are visual, some need to kind of talk it out on the field. Some people need to watch game film. So I think that's kind of really helped me be a better coach and learning that everyone is different and that you have to really make sure that everyone's understanding and on the same page as you before you can expect your team to go out and be successful.
And now let's talk a little bit about going into this week. Of course, your last of 3 home games on the schedule, which we can talk about a little bit later. But when we go in and play against Bellarmine University here, senior day, how big of a game is this for just the seniors themselves? And do you feel like this will be emotional for them at all?
Yeah, of course I think it's going to be emotional. It's always one of those kind of games that kind of lets you know that this is the beginning of the end in terms of their playing career here at Lindenwood. So I think it's kind of emotional in that sense, but I also think that it's very exciting. Bellarmine's always been one of our biggest rivals. They're their closest opponent to us in Division II. They've been in our conference for the last 5+ years that we've really had the ECAC, and now we're both independent together. So I think it's a culmination of excitement to play such a great team in terms of a rival on our senior day, and also have the parents here to support us and really celebrate the seniors' last 4 years here at Lindenwood.
And then talk about just a little bit about these seniors, Shelby, Savannah, and Skylar, just three of the big ones there. And of course, Skylar having a tremendous year so far in goal. Yeah. What was it like watching them develop over their 4 years with you coaching them?
Yeah, I mean, it's been so awesome. We actually have 5 seniors on the team. So Kate McLennan and Nora are actually graduating early after 3 seasons because they'll be graduating early and kind of moving on to their careers that they want to go into, which we're sad for them to leave us early, but excited that they will be kind of moving on to great things in their future. So, it's been awesome to see them develop. I think it's so cool. The biggest thing that we love to see is for players to develop as leaders on our team. So the skill has developed consistently from year to year, but seeing them really take on that leadership role to the younger players. Shelby and Nora are our captains this year, so 2 seniors, and then really kind of just setting that tone for where they want the future of this program to go, not just leaving it in the hands of the people below them and kind of being like, I'm out, but making sure that they're really invested in where the future is going.
And great, Coach. Well, thank you so much again for joining us today, and good luck on Saturday. Again, if you want to check out the field hockey team, they'll be at home against Bellarmine University, as you heard, one of their biggest rivals here on Saturday at home. Again, that'll do it here with Coach Sarah Baumann of the Lindenwood women's field hockey team. Coming up next, we'll be joined by the women's rugby coach, Billy Nicholas, right here on Lion Pride Sports.
So we were walking to school.
I started thinking about lunch. Mom packed me turkey and cheese.
She's
I really
smart.
want cheese pizza.
Sometimes her mind wanders.
We should have a sleepover.
I remember saying, Laura?
I think I heard Mom say something.
The sign says don't walk.
Sometimes it's so overwhelming.
I really hope she doesn't
I
have
really
another
hope I
bad
don't
day
have another bad day at school today.
When you can see learning and attention issues from their side, you can be on their side. Go to understood.org, a free online resource with support and tools to help your child thrive.
I'm 1 on Lucky Guy. The chance of being involved in a robbery is 1 in 757. The chances of being struck by lightning. 1 in 750,000.
Please fasten your seatbelts for unexpected turbulence.
The chances of being a victim in an airline crash? 1 in 29 million. Hey, could I get some peanuts? The chances of being involved in a car crash are far greater than lightning strikes and plane crashes. And if you are texting while driving, your risk of crash increases 23 times. Now, I may be an unlucky guy, but I don't have to be part of that statistic, and neither do you. Drive responsibly.
Thank you. You got a king?
Go fish! In your face, in your face,
It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Welcome back to Lion Pride Sports. Again, I'm Andrew Rogers, here now joined by the women's rugby coach, Coach Billy Nicholas. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
And Coach, of course, you're from Buffalo, but now you're here in St. Louis. What's the weather like? What's that change for you?
I'd say the Missouri weather means that you get all 4 seasons in one day. And I enjoy that. Yeah, it's a nice mix-up.
That's a very good point. But of course, we want to talk about rugby and we want to talk about the team. So let's get right into talking about the success of the team so far this year and just in previous years. 3-0 to start this year with a lot of fairly close matches. How has the team shaped up so far?
It's been really good. I think one of the main goals that we have each year is we talk about just being better than the year before. So if we're evaluating our foundation at the beginning of this year compared to the last couple of years, we're in a really good place right now. One of our goals to start this year was to try and make some really competitive matches for us inside of our schedule. That's why you see those close scores, and there's no doubt about it. Those close games were exactly what we need. Coming off of last year's 3 national championships, I wouldn't say we need a little knock to the chin, but it's kind of nice to get a refresher and to kind of be humbled and know that we have a lot of work to do, but at the same time coming away with a couple of really big wins.
And it's like basically coming back to reality now. You're up there, yeah. you're in the sky, you're in the clouds, but now you're like, okay, now we got to get and grind it back out on the turf. So when we talk about as the team shapes up, who have you been most impressed with from last year carried over to this year?
I would say we have a really good senior class. Maybe not anybody particular, but definitely our senior class has shown some veteran leadership that's much needed. We have a lot of great freshmen, sophomores, and juniors, but we're finally to the point where this is my first recruitment class that's graduating, and being able to see them kind of set the standards and expectations there in practice is exactly what we needed.
And then 2 national championships in back-to-back years, 2016 and 2017.
Yeah.
Or was it 2017, 2018?
2017, 2018.
2017, 2018. So, yes, you'll get yours in 2019 now when we get that trio. But anyway, of course, not a Division II sport because you're not NCAA. You're student life sports, and makes you guys a Division I sport. So how do you feel like that kind of a competition level makes you guys more humble in the regards that we were talking about?
Yeah, so for us, being governed by USA Rugby, we do have the ability to kind of pick and choose the division that we want to play in. So we have selected to play in the highest division possible, which is Division I Elite through USA Rugby. So for us, we're kind of a bit geographically isolated. Being here in the Midwest, there's a lot of teams, Pacific Northwest, a lot of teams Northeast. So for us, we travel quite a ways to get good matches and have teams come in quite a ways to get good matches for us. So we have an independent schedule. So for me, it's kind of the task of putting together the best schedule to making sure that each of our student athletes gets challenged at their developmental level each season.
And your schedule isn't big or isn't very long, I should say. When you look at a hockey schedule, for example, there's games for 80 plus sometimes, but for you guys, there's only about 15 games on your schedule. Is there a reason behind that?
A lot of contact. So it's about preserving those bodies for as long as we can. So we'll start up, beginning of September and go till beginning of November. And then we've kind of focused on strength and conditioning, healing up a bit, and then we get going again in February. But we'll go all the way till the beginning of June. So for us, it's kind of how do we maintain our health throughout such a spread out season?
And then with the season that we see ahead of us, do you guys play primarily 15s, or do you guys also mix in some 7s into there?
So for the fall, we're primarily 15s. And then for the spring, it's the challenge of having both 15s and 7s. So juggling both codes and coaching and playing both codes is always an interesting thing for us to do. But we've definitely had some success with it before. And it's exciting to mix up the codes and not just do one or the other.
And then as we get forward into talking, you talked about the seniors. Let's talk about the freshman class that you were able to bring in. You know, we got to talk a little bit about recruiting in the break, and you guys brought in a huge freshman class, about 27 freshmen, if I counted correctly. Just talk about how you go about your recruiting process.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's not a ton of high school rugby locally as far as girls' youth rugby goes. There's a bit of boys on the high school side, but for us, it's kind of about getting out to tournaments over the summertime, reaching out to high school coaches and developing those relationships, and even at the international level, just kind of making connections there and seeing who wants to take the opportunity to come and study at Lindenwood and get a chance to play on one of the best teams in the nation. So for us, it's definitely a bit of work to get out there, but I think it pays off, and it shows in the success we've had, in the culture we've had, and we've been really blessed with really great recruitment classes the past couple of years that are not only great players, but that are also great people.
And I think you can really argue that recruiting class because starting with the success, you are able to now utilize that and be like, hey, this is a reason why you should be here. You know, not only is this campus, you know, beautiful to live on, but we bring a successful program to you, and you can help add to that. Is that kind of your main recruiting tactic?
I mean, I'd say our main recruiting tactic is definitely our culture. When a recruit comes on campus, we have a few recruits coming in this week, and I think just hanging out with the team and just getting to know them and getting to know that, you know, rugby is important for us, but, you know, the student-athlete experience is really highly valued here, and making sure that everybody's enjoying the sport while they're playing it. But at the same time, getting extremely competitive games is kind of the mix for us. So I would say it's a little bit of everything that kind of drives our recruitment success here. But it's been a blast getting out there and meeting new people and having people, you know, trust us to come in here and develop them as players and people.
And then, of course, when a lot of people look at the schedule, they see A and they see B, and some people don't really know what that means. Of course, the A and B teams, but with a lot of these freshmen that we're talking about, do they normally start on the B team, or do a lot of them make it to the A level?
It's a good mix. It's a good mix. I would say that some of them that might not have had a ton of high school competitive experiences might start off at the JV level and then work their way up over a couple of years. But we've had quite a few freshmen and new students come in and start off on the varsity side for us as well. Just kind of depends what level that they're at. And our main thing is that we want to challenge everybody. So depending on what level you're at, we've got a match for you, and we're going to get you some game time, and you're going to enjoy the sport.
And then going into practice, you know, you have to prepare for every game. What kind of drills and different types of scrimmaging do you guys do to prepare for different matches? Because like you said, this is a full contact sport, and this is no pad. So when you go about this in practice, how do you kind of like save you know, a player's body, in lack of a better terms, and prepare that for a game?
Yeah, I mean, our practice is pretty set up. Our periodization is we have a pretty light Monday. Our Tuesdays are big collision day. So in those collision sessions, we'll go full go on that. We'll just kind of modify the space that we use so they're not as big of hits. Wednesdays off and Thursdays are fast day. So we have a pretty set schedule every week, so the bodies can get used to that, and, you know, we're ready to peak on Saturday or Sunday whenever our games are.
And that's my next question as we go into the weekend. Of course, Saturday, the first home game against the Kansas City Jazz women. How do you see this game going, and do you expect any nerves because it's the first game of the year? First home game, I should say, of the year?
I mean, I would say there's always a little bit of nerves there. If you don't have nerves, you're probably not excited. You know, it's just about getting the butterflies to fly in formation together. But I would say that we're really excited to have our first home match. Home matches are always special for us, and it's just a different experience than being on the road. And, you know, having a game Saturday and Sunday will provide an opportunity for a lot of our players that haven't been able to travel yet to get out on the field and have some fun with it and show what they can do. And not to jinx us and put my foot in my mouth, but we have not lost at home in 4 years. So I would say that's a pretty nice record to have going into this weekend.
Well, we'll knock on wood. I don't know if this is a lot of wood, but we're going to knock on wood. And then, of course, you guys follow up on Sunday against the St. Louis Sabres, which is kind of an interesting point I want to get your opinion on, because when you talk to your team, or when most coaches talk to their team, they say, okay, let's prepare for the game ahead. We're only looking to the game ahead. We're not going to look to the future. But in this type of game, you're playing two different teams back-to-back days. So how do you really set the mindset of the players, okay, let's get away from 1 game ahead and look to 2 games ahead?
Yeah. For us, we have a couple different people playing in both games, so that helps with the focus as well. But, a continuing theme for us is what can we do better? So each week, it doesn't really matter our opponent. We're going to take some feedback away from it, things we did well, things we need to continue to work on it, and the focus is on us. We have extremely high potential to perform as a program and a team this year, and it's just about kind of taking the fall to develop that and refining it in the spring. So, each game we'll learn a little bit more and hopefully come together a bit more.
And then are we missing any players this year, key injuries or anything like that, or that the depth can really kind of overcome?
Yeah, I think even with injuries and with a great graduating class from last year as well, I believe that our depth is one of the things that sets us apart from other programs. We do have a large team, but I think we manage it and we make it work, and it's a great experience. And if somebody goes down, somebody else has got to be ready to step up, and that's kind of one of the things that we preach is you never really know when it's your time, so you got to be ready to go.
And then you came to Lindenwood in 2014. Of course, that's where your success all started. When you first came in, you led the program to their first Elite 8 appearance in 15s, national second place finish at Spring Sevens Collegiate Rugby Championships. So really, when you got here, you made an immediate impact. What did you kind of carry over from your playing career that you were able to put forth toward your coaching career?
I'm big on effort and energy. Work ethic is huge for our team. So that's something personally that I value, is just going out there and working hard and having a positive attitude towards it. And just understanding, what you have to put in to make sure that, you're successful as an individual and successful as a team. That aspect in teaching and culture-wise has been kind of my biggest driving factors for us. But it was quite wild coming in and only having, 13 student athletes, and now we're close to about 70 on our roster. So it's been really exciting to be just a part of that growth the past couple of years. And, a lot of that success has got to be attributed to the athletes and the support we have here at school and the facilities we have here at school.
And then how much did that mean to you, as a coach emotionally, getting that success right off the start? Just let us know how that meant to you.
It was definitely not quite off the start. I think those first 2 years were a bit of a punch to the chin. We ended up in the first year, when we made it to the Elite 8, we lost to Penn State by 88 points to 0. So that scoreboard will be forever ingrained in my head. It was a very cold day in Ohio that day. So for us to go from that within, quickly 2 years' time, us winning the national title and winning last year's 15 title pretty handily against all of our opponents. It's been sweet. It's been sweet. And it's been something that I'll really cherish. And we talk about having these little moments that we can kind of take with us beyond the field and beyond graduation here. And I have a feeling that everybody that's been a part of that is going to be, a memorable experience for them.
And so far in your coaching career, what can you attribute your success to?
Hard work. That's it. I mean, as cliche as that sounds, I like the Will Smith quote. The difference between me and him is if we get on the treadmill, I'm not coming off. I'm not coming off. I'm dying on that treadmill, or you're coming off before me. And that's kind of the way that I handle, my job and my reason why is to coach these players and see them grow as people. And a big thing for me is I won't be outworked.
And then finally, Coach, you talked about the goals of the team, but let's talk about the goals for you. What goals have you set for yourself this season?
We just want to get better. We just want to get better. We want to have fun while we do it. The wins are, of course, fun, but we could win a game and not have fun because we didn't play to our potential. So our biggest thing is, for me, is being able to bring out the potential of our program collectively. And whether that results in a win or a loss, we want to feel like we went out there and we put our best product forward no matter what happens.
Well, Coach, again, good luck to you and your team coming on Saturday and Sunday. Again, Lindenwood fans, this is a home game, so check them out here in St. Charles. For Coach Nicholas and Coach Stuger, thanks for joining me today here for this edition of the Coaches Show. I'm Andrew Rogers. This has been Lion Pride Sports.